welcome to episode number 26 of the Nasty Metal Podcast, and this one is a very special one because this is a birthday edition of the Nasty Metal Podcast, and yes, because I'm recording this, well, on my 27th birthday. Yes, because I've already, that's how old I am now. I almost wanted to do this one live, but I pretty much bailed out on that one. I just, obviously, I've never done anything live, streaming or anything on YouTube, so I need to probably do something like a test kind of video to really kind of see on how something like that would play out. So I pretty much almost thought about doing a live podcast episode, but the more I just thought about it, and the more I just felt each day, and it's just like, I don't think I'm confident enough to try that because of who knows whether or not there's going to be something, screwy there, and I don't want to make sure that I have an episode be that screwy. So it is what it is. And I've been putting this one off for at least a week now. But I pretty much, as long as it went with me without recording episode number 26 here, the more I just went along and the more I thought about, it would be much more interesting and cooler to do this one on my birthday. And I think right now, as you're listening, you might be listening to this pretty later tonight instead of, let's say a Saturday. So I think it's since everything's just more different down here, everything's faster internet-wise, I can be able to can probably put things up much more later. So you probably are listening to this pretty late right now, and I think it's actually a pretty interesting experience. So either way, okay, so what is on the topics or the agenda for this special birthday edition of the Nasty Metal Podcast? Again, episode number 26, and I'm going to be going through at least some scheduled content, but I also have at least a Q&A segment for this episode, and I'll get to, of course, whose question I'm going to be answering on this episode, and it's from a long-time, obviously a long-time viewer of the Nasty Metal Productions channel, one who follows me, and one who has had the majority of the questions, being sent in for these Q&A segments of the Nasty Metal Podcast. So I'll be getting to that as soon as I can. But right now, let's first get into what is the scheduled content. Don't want to get tongue-tied there. So here we go. The scheduled content for this week, again, probably by now, or by Friday, you'll of course see a review for the new album from Quartz, one of the more, some will pigeonhole them into the new wave or British heavy metal movement, but the thing is that they kind of are one of those where they just kind of made it a little bit too before. So in a way, they're not, again, it's the same situation with, I would say, Motorhead. They're not really a part of the new wave or British heavy metal movement, but at the same time, they're not really a part of the first wave of, British metal or first wave heavy metal. They're not really. They're just one of, I guess you could say, the missing link between the first wave and what would become the new wave. And so Quartz, I would say, are really, again, the middle there. They are the missing link. But they've got a new album out, and you obviously will be seeing my review for On the Edge of Tomorrow this Friday. So look for that. However, as far as next week's scheduled content, will be, of course, on Monday, the 11th. It will be, of course, episode number 166 of the Album of the Week video. And it's going to be a spotlight on Danzig 3, How the Gods Kill. Yes, his third full-length album, and I can't wait to get to doing that one and for you guys to hear my thoughts on it, because of it holds a special place in my heart. One of my absolute favorite albums to begin with, in general, and just one of my absolute favorites from Danzig. So there we go. And of course, Friday the 15th will be, of course, obviously will be the 287th episode of the reviews, and it's going to be a review on the newest release from Japan's own Metal Lucifer. It is Heavy Metal Ninja. Yes, I'm getting to reviewing that one, and definitely something from Metal Lucifer, one of, I believe, Gizzo of the Japanese band Sabat, or Sabat. His band that he's had for, since the 90s. Classic heavy metal sound and everything. Very much a little more different than Sabat, in a way. But just great stuff, nonetheless. But right now, that's so far what I have on the agenda. But there might be somewhere on the line, I would say probably the week after that. I know for a fact that I will definitely be reviewing the newest album from Midnight Hellion. And I'll get into that real soon on why I will be reviewing that album anyways. But that would be the following week. That would have been, that would be for like Friday the 22nd. But that means on that week of July, again, from Monday the 18th, that would be, of course, episode number 167 of Album of the Week. That is going to be a spotlight on none other than Screaming for Vengeance from Judas Priest. Since it is reaching its 40th anniversary, I obviously need to at least spotlight what is considered the most influential, one of the most biggest and very much highly regarded heavy metal albums from, of course, one of the most highly regarded heavy metal band, Judas Priest, anyways. And, of course, one of my absolute favorites to begin with. I don't want to come off, though. I hope that that's not telling you that I'm sounding hipsterish, but sometimes I will let you know what is one of my favorite albums. And obviously, if you're listening to a channel that is called NastyMetalProductions, how are you not going to expect me to say that one of my favorite metal albums of all time is Screaming for Vengeance? Hell, one of my favorite metal albums at some point I'll get to talking about later this year, which I just received on CD finally, is Restless and Wild by Accept. Again, because I have an original pressing on Brain, which of course uses the Burning Twin guitars. But I wanted at least a copy of Restless and Wild that at least had the more worldwide cover, the one with the live shot of Udo basically choking out, or Peter Baltz, the bass player. I wanted at least that artwork, which was used a year later from Epic / Portrait Record and stuff. So, but still, I'm just kind of letting the record straight that you're listening to a channel. So if you're some fucking snob that wants to come onto this channel and somehow hear me say, "Oh, this is my favorite album of all time," and you somehow kind of, feel like you're gonna tug a bit on your shirt or something, and almost feel like you're cringing, I'm sorry, but you're listening to a channel that's called NastyMetalProductions. You think I'm not going to say that Screaming for Vengeance is one of my favorite albums to begin with? It's one of those albums I still hold, even though I've got plenty of other favorites from Judas Priest. As I said, it's one of those gateway albums, and it really did help further push, obviously, Judas Priest to me. It really kind of just made them one of those bands that I just latched onto further and further, and it's one of the bands that did that. So I hope some dipshit is cringing at some of that. Okay, but that's pretty much at least the scheduled content for at least these next 2 weeks. Now, the reason I brought up Midnight Hellion and the reason I'll probably be reviewing their newest album is probably because for the fact that I will be catching them this Friday at the Fulton 55 with them playing alongside White Wizard and Anvil. Of course, Anvil is the headlining band. They, of course, took Midnight Hellion and White Wizard on tour with them. Again, White Wizard being one of the more original new wave or traditional heavy metal bands around the same time, around Enforcer and Ram and Cauldron, Portrait, and just some of those kind of bands. Just for example, they're around pretty much the same time. Skullfist as well. So again, out of Los Angeles, California. Just again, one of the original new wave or traditional heavy metal bands, and they are definitely going to be playing alongside Anvil and of course a young New Jersey-based Midnight Hellion. They've got a new album out, and they will be selling copies of their album at the show. I'm looking forward to picking it up because I will do a review on it. So again, it's a brand new release. And when it comes to this channel and its album reviews, segments and episodes, I have to at least have something that's at least a pretty new release for me to review. So there we go. But that's pretty much it for at least, and I'm looking forward to, of course, seeing Anvil again for the second time, because the last time I had seen them was in 2019 on the Pounding the Pavement tour. And I had a fun time watching them and seeing them play, and they put on a kick-ass show. But this one, since thank God at least there's at least a lot more easing up on with the whole COVID thing, and finally there are some concerts coming back. So it's really great for this to be a thing again, for concerts. So I'm glad that my first time back to seeing concerts again, post 2020, finally it will be Anvil, which is, I think, a great opportunity, and it kicks things off very good for me, just for my concert going and the activities. It's fantastic. So I am looking forward to seeing them. It's going to be a great time anyways. The doors pretty much open at 7:30. Apparently there was a band that pulled out, and I think it was a local band. So they're getting on two more local bands to basically to take over the one that pulled out. I forgot the name of the band that pulled out, but there's at least going to be two more. So it won't be just Midnight Hellion, White Wizard, and of course the main event themselves, Anvil, but it will be two other bands. So it's going to be, at this point, 5 bands at this point. So it's going to be a pretty long night from 7:30 to, or at least, 8 to fucking, goddamn, probably 11 or 12 o'clock. I don't know for how long that everyone's going to be on for, how much time they're going to have, to play on stage. So it's going to be great. That's why there's at least a nice bar on the back side of you, behind. So it will be great. It's going to be a great time. Because the last time I had been at the Fulton 55 was when I saw DRI. With, of course, the band... Shit. Now I kind of forgot. Intent, I think they were called. Intent. Thrash metal band. But I've got some footage, though, of that night. And I've just been forgetting to throw it up on YouTube. But I will definitely make sure that I'll have some footage of at least Midnight Hellion so I can use for my review there. And I'm hoping to also take some footage of at least Anvil as well. So it'll be a great time. I'm going to have a really good time seeing these guys. Just to let the record straight, I am not the hugest fan of White Wizard, but I do like at least their first 2 releases, that meaning High Speed... GTO, I think was called. Oh my god, I can't remember what the freaking album title was, but it was High Speed something. And then of course their actual first full-length album, Alright, I kind of even forgot the name of the very first album, but it had at least a very kind of demon-lookish wizard on the cover, but it was very vibrant colors with blue and kind of reddish pinkish kind of coloring and stuff. And that's a very good album in its own right, but if it's just like some of the material though afterwards, it didn't really grab me as much. But we'll see how at least they pull off their performance. I thought one of the original singers came back into the band, but someone at least, there's gotta be at least another original member in at least White Wizard besides just the guitar player. So that's pretty much gonna be what's going on this week. So a lot of great stuff. I've got some stuff ordered. So I think my plans for if I ever do live, an actual live stream on YouTube would probably be for like a collection update. Instead of just having to record one via my phone and then upload it like, a few days later or something, I'm thinking about the idea of doing it, stream-wise. So I can start some good conversation with some of you guys, to get your thoughts via just streaming and everything, just via live. And we just, chit-chat back and forth about some of the stuff I'll be showing. That's about it there. I guess it's time to get into the Q&A segment. So let's get into that now. Let's get into some questions. Make it more interesting for this episode, for the special birthday edition. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe right now over the computer or whatever you're listening to this on or watching this, who knows whether or not you'll be excited. I hope you're not that excited. Yeah, alright. Just fuck with all of you. Okay, so let's get into where the messages are. Shit. Here we go. Of course, this, again, I alluded to the person that sent in the question. It's time to let you know. It is, of course, Stormrider. Again, this channel's longtime viewer and the majority person that has sent in questions and a lot from these, for these past Q&A episodes or segments on these Nasty Metal podcast episodes and stuff. So this is Stormrider's question. So let me answer this, and I'll definitely let you know what are my answer for this one. Okay, so here we go. So my question for the podcast is, what are your favorite releases of the first half of 2022? For me, I'd pick Saxon and Satan by far. Good picks. They're definitely one of my favorites, definitely for this year. Again, I love the newest Saxon. Again, Carpe Diem. I think it's a solid album and probably some of the best stuff they've done so far in quite a while. I think it blows away half of stuff off of, like, for example, Battering Ram, and I think it's even 10 times better than Thunderbolt, which again, that was a good album, but I think it kind of lacked a little bit of punch. But Carpe Diem just brought back a lot of spark to at least the writing and everything, and it just seemed a lot more catchier, a lot more hookier riffs, and even lyrics and stuff. I mean, lyrics are usually can be considered hit and miss when it comes to Saxon, but they're just a band who are just honest about what they play, and I think that's what you definitely get on Carpe Diem, is a band that's just honest about what they're playing, and they obviously enjoy it. So that's why I think it comes across as good as it is, because of they're just having a pretty good time laying down these just straightforward heavy metal rockers on this album, and that's why I love it. And of course, the new Satan. Oh my god! For one, that's probably going to be my number one album of the year. But I would say I would throw along there from my favorites of the first half. Also goes to, well, the album that was released by the band that I'm going to be seeing this Friday. That being Impact is Imminent by Anvil. I know Stormrider isn't a complete fan of the album and not an Anvil in general, but me, I am. And I'm personally going to throw Impact is Imminent as one of my favorites of this year, for sure, alongside Satan and Saxon. Since, again, I am very much a diehard fan of Handville, and I think Impact is Imminent, I think, is some of the strongest material they've done since, for me, probably since Pounding the Pavement. But I think it's definitely a really good album. I feel these two albums, again, Pounding the Pavement and Impact is Imminent, are really kind of like brother and sister albums in a way. I didn't really feel the same way towards Legal at Last, but there's still some good bangers on that album. But I just think something is a lot more better on Impact is Imminent. I think you can tell the band is a lot more in full effect on there. They really seem to be enjoying themselves a lot more on that one. Like, everything just flows better. And I think it's why the album turned out as good as it did. So there we go. I'm trying to go to my Rate Your Music page. I can look up some other ones. I know I do dig the new Scorpions album. And funny enough, speaking of Scorpions, they're actually touring with Whitesnake. And they're actually going to come here in October to play at the Save Mart Center. Who knows if I'll be able to go, but I think I might be able to have a chance to go and see them as well. So that'll be a pretty cool night as well. But that's all the way in October. And I'll probably start talking more about that concert when that time comes. So there we go. But as far as, again, I dig the new Scorpions album. I know there are some that are kind of 50-50 on it. Some like it, some don't. But that's kind of usual when it comes to Scorpions and their new releases. But I'm one who definitely finds a lot of enjoyment in the brand new Scorpions album. Again, Rock Believer. I think it's definitely one of the heaviest albums that they've released in a long time. That's for sure. And it's a very rockin' album. A lot of some, whether or not recycled riffs, but I think it's still very much a solid rock album, or at times like metal album from Scorpions. And that's the first time you'll ever hear me say that, or consider a Scorpions album to be metal. Probably not since, let's say, some of the ones they released in the 80s or even at times in the 70s. There we go. I'm trying to find my list here. Here we go. I'm going down here, going down. Shit. Oh yeah, I also really dig the Echoes from the Gutter from Venator. I really dig that album. I think that's a really strong album from those guys. It's their first album, but that's such a really good album in its own right. Midas released a solid album. I was surprised by that one. Same goes for at least... oh my god, I always have a hard time trying to pronounce these guys' names. I had it right when I did the review for it, but... oh my god, Descensions? Jeez, I already screw up what their name's supposed to be. But again, Empire Anatomy, that was an album that was sent to me by the band themselves. But, or was it? No, was it by the band themselves? I think it was. But they're good friends with the guy of Soul Grinder Zine. They sent me their album, and I really dug that one. That's a really solid slab of technical thrash metal with some death metal tendency or influences on it. It's a really solid album. I also dig Nocturnal Creatures from Bomber. And even the brand new album from Aggressiva, I think, is a really tight album. So there we go. That's probably my top 10 for so far. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'm forgetting to mention Emissary. Again, Jim Harris, his original metal project that he's, him and one of the original guys anyways have reformed, Emissary, The Wretched Masquerade. That's a really good album as well. That's really damn good. That's pretty much right now listed as number 4. So in a way, for my top 5 of, that's, I'll get to basically, the top 10 and everything. But right now in the top 5 is pretty much, The Earth Eternal from Satan, Carpe Diem from Saxon, Impact is Imminent from Anvil, The Wretched Masquerade from Emissary, and of course Echoes from the Gutter from Venator. Right now, that is the top 5 for my list of favorite albums in the year 2022. Then, of course, the second half of the list, basically of my top 10, Rock Believer from Scorpions, the self-titled album from Midas, Empire Anatomy from oh, god damn it, I'm an asshole there. Shit. And, of course, Nocturnal Creatures from Bomber, and then Pinnacle and Cynical from Aggressiva. Jesus, I hope I don't come across as a freaking racist on here, because I keep fucking up some of these band, album names and band names and shit. God damn. Either way, that's my top 10. So some great albums there for me, and they're still. I know we're not done. I know Megadeth is gonna be releasing one, and so far I really dig what I hear from the new track. We also have, I know. Just recently, Municipal Waste have released a new album, and from what I heard, I'll be honest with you, I was never that big of a fan of Municipal Waste. I do own a CD copy of Hazardous Mutation, but that's the only album that I kind of somewhat dug for them. But I just didn't really care much to go much further into their discography. I did check some stuff, stuff from their earlier releases, and it's all right, but when it came to the more modern kind of crossover style thrash metal, mixing between hardcore punk and just straight up speed thrash metal, I always was more, a bit more, drawn to Dr. Living Dead out of Sweden. I just really dug their sound. I always kind of felt this is what I wished Municipal Waste sounded like. However, from what I heard of the newest song from Municipal Waste that's off their newest album, oh my god, I think it sounds like it's gonna be their absolute best fucking album. That is a really good track, some really fine slab of thrash metal. I think it blows away anything from their other releases to begin with. It just, something about that track sounds a lot more tighter, more edged out. They're really kind of honing in more and more, and I wish they really stuck on to that kind of style early on instead of just trying to be like, yeah, we gotta be thrash for thrash sake, we're gonna, beer and killing posers and shit like that, which just became so goddamn predictable and cliched for a lot of those thrash metal bands from the 2000s. That became, because of we hate everything that's emo and everything. It's just like it's fucking horrible, and we need to bring back the old stuff. It just, I think that kind of mentality kind of for me kind of killed some of that, because of I'm not trying to let you know that I want my music to be serious, but I want at least someone to have at least where they're not trying to be kind of tee-hee-hee kind of bullshit, it's like I need to let you know why I think the shit nowadays just sucks, I don't like some of that mentality. Yes, you can dislike a lot of the stuff that's coming out today from a lot of supposed modern popular artists, and I'm kind of the same way. I don't much care for a lot of stuff that's from a lot of popular artists at the time. Hell, I used to have been a really big fan of Def Leppard. I don't give a shit about the newer stuff anymore. It sucks. It's completely, it just sounds like a completely different band, and I don't know what is their agenda anymore. It's like they just want to stay relevant just for the sake of trying to stay relevant, and they'll just try and sound like every other pop artist that's around these days. They'll just go after it. And I think it's just completely bullshit. But do you need me to actually write or do something that's, as a response to it's like, to tell you, yeah, this shit sucks. You need to listen to this. This is better. Do you need me to write stuff like that and make a whole entire song or album out of that? No. I don't need to really banging it into your freaking, or pound it into your skull of what I completely think about today's music just in a song in itself. Write a fucking song that I'm at least gonna be able to enjoy. Just don't freaking tell me what songs or trends suck today. Write me a song and I'll tell you whether or not if it's at least somewhat better than to begin with. But don't come out and just be blunt and completely ridiculous about it. And that was usually just the mentality of a lot of those goddamn thrash metal bands in the 2000s. It's like, and it got to the point where I think they cared more about trying to. It made them wanting, because of it, they disliked a lot of the stuff that was coming out, that they decided they have to write music that sounds almost like it. Their stuff, the stuff from the old days, instead of trying to take a lot of inspiration from the older stuff, but try and give it your kind of spin. Do it your way. Instead, it just came across where it's like, we need more bands that sounded like this from this era, so we're gonna play stuff and write stuff that completely sounds like the same thing you heard 30 or 40 years ago. I know some are now going to call me a hypocrite, but the difference is between, let's say, some of the new wave or traditional heavy metal bands and, let's say, some of the thrash metal bands from that era is that, yes, there's a little bit of a retroness to them, but at the same time, I think they actually were more creative by some of the songs that they wrote in a way. It's like, yes, there was the obligatory song about how they love metal and stuff, but at the same time you also had some songs that had some interesting themes about it. Look at a band like Ambush from Sweden. The reason why I love that band so much is that they actually took some time and really put some thought in some of the lyrics, even drawing some stuff from history and stuff. Yes, it takes a little bit of out of the Iron Maiden playbook, but at the same time they actually had a clear idea of what they wanted to do. Yes, there was the original idea that they wanted to start a band because they wanted some albums that sound like the old stuff, but at the same time, instead of trying to completely like sound something from then, they kind of did something where, and instead, it's got the production values of the old days, but it ends up making it sound like might have been released then, instead of just like we have to completely sound like something from them. That means drawing too much of the same recycled riffs from then. And I know Ambush kind of falls somewhat into that, but I think they were a little more creative about it and a little more different about it than some of the more thrash metal bands in the 2000s. So instead of just trying to take the aggression and the spirit of the old days, instead, it's just that, well, we just have to play like the old days. That means taking the same riffs, but yet somehow lack the same aggression and the same piss and vinegar, the same, just the overall intensity of the old days. That's, I think, is what to me kind of lacked about some of those thrash metal bands from the 2000s. Is it lacked a little bit of that youthful aggression that I think some of those bands had. It's like the thrash metal bands in the 80s, yes, they let you know that they didn't like Motley Crue. They weren't a big fan of Poison and Rat and such and such, or Bon Jovi. They didn't care. They didn't like those bands. But at the same time, that was their counter was putting an actual aggression into some songs, but they let you know that this is what they want to make. So there was at least with some sort of creativeness behind it. They at least had something behind there that was just more meaner, more aggressive. Yes, some thrash metal bands from the 2000s had some aggression, but at the same time, I think they cared more about, for example, I think the biggest offenders were like, let's say, Merciless Death and Fueled by Fire. I think they were like the biggest offenders when it came to that. Toxic Holocaust were interesting about it, and Municipal Waste. Yes, they had some cool stuff here and there, but they're one of those that kind of fell into the same sort of trap like Fueled by Fire and Merciless Death. But at least yes, Havoc kind of like the same, but they were trying to be more technical. I think they got a little better when it came to their first full-length album, and then by the second album they got. But nowadays, I think now their lyrics are more about, and half the time you don't know what side they're completely on when it comes to the politics, everything, what they're mad about. It's kind of weird. We're weird signals, and I'm not too big on the vocals now and everything. It's just Havoc I dug once, but now I don't completely dig as much anymore. But again, then when it comes to a scenario like Municipal Waste, where it's like I wasn't all that crazy about them, earlier, but just something about the new song from their new album, my God, I think it lit something. I felt like something lit right up, right up from under their ass, and finally they were able to make something that I think stands up against their earlier stuff, probably to the point where it stands on top of them, crushing them. So, basically like in a wrestling match, there's only one, two men enter the ring, but only one man has to leave with the championship, and that's kind of what it is. It's like, for an example, let's say the squash match, like Wardlow versus MJF. You just see the pin and everything. He's probably standing over him, and it's like, all right, you're carried, and MJF gets carried out of the match on a stretcher. It's kind of a similar kind of situation, I feel, when it comes to the newest thing from Municipal Waste. It's the same thing. The old stuff pretty much has gotten stretched out on a stretcher. So, kudos to Municipal Waste on finally doing something that I actually really dig and really enjoy. And I'm looking forward to picking up a copy of it so I can review as well on the channel. So, there we go. So that's about it, though, when it comes to at least anything for at least this year. But, yeah. So, there's a lot of great stuff out. But there's still some more other stuff that I think that are still coming out and everything. But, because again, we're getting onto the second half of 2022. So we'll see what else is coming out. But again, I dig what I hear from Municipal Waste. And I'm really looking forward to the new album from Megadeth. Sounds killer to begin with. Yes, I know. Post, David Ellefson, but what can you do about it? You can't really piss and moan about it. It was stupid shit, but at the same time, every time though, when Dave Mustaine gets on, let's say the fucking blabbermouth or these interviews and everything, it's just him performing damage control. It's just damage control. It has nothing to do whether or not he wants to work with him ever again. He's just saying that he doesn't want to make music with him right now because of what happened with David Ellefson. It has nothing to do about whether or not he's still friends with him or the fact that he wants to do music with him. It's all because of he's trying to make people feel happy. I know, but what did you see the video footage of him just recently on tour with Judas Priest, where he's chewing out one of Judas Priest's road crew because they did something stupid, called him a piece of shit in that. Dave Mustaine's a weird guy at times. He's a very weird guy, but at the same time, when it's like, I don't know whether or not he really completely means everything he said. I think he in his weird way, I think he likes to poke fun at people. He likes to rib people. So I think he might have been ribbing the guy on purpose, trying to give the the road crew member a hard time on stage. Because again, when you got a microphone in front of you, you're gonna talk as much shit as much as you can. The same way with me in this podcast episode right now. It's just your personal little soapbox. So, you're just doing it just because it's a stage show. It's to give the audience a little something to remember when they leave, But again, it is what it is. Dave Mustaine is just going to play damage control crew member and everything. He's gonna play it as much as he can. Give it 5 or 10 years or something. Give it 5 more years, I would say. I'll say 5 more years, maybe 6 years. And you might end up seeing David Ellefson back in Megadeth. Because again, is anybody still going to try and keep a grudge over the stupid shit that David Ellefson did last year? He already pretty much said he regrets doing it. And also it came out that the girl was one that was egging him on to kind of pull out his pecker in front of the camera. So, and yes, it was a stupid thing because too David Ellefson was married. So, but is people gonna keep that much of a grudge on David Ellefson for that freaking long? They're gonna get they're at this point, people remember it, but at the same time, are they gonna crow about it as long as it did when they, let's say if Dave Mustaine decides to announce already, like, oh yeah, after the tour, David Ellefson is going to be back in the band. He's back. Do you really think the people are actually going to just start throwing eggshells at Dave Mustaine over their computer screen to say, oh my God, how can you let that guy back in? You know what he did? How can you still sympathize for that guy? Nobody's going to do that. Nobody. I think in 5 years, the reaction is going to be, well, fuck yeah, you finally let him back in. But they'll probably be pissed at him, being like, but why wouldn't you let him back in, though, then? It is what it is, folks. It is what it is. Dave Mustaine, for as long as he is, he's going to play Damage Control crew member. But by 5 years from now, he's at least going to accept, get over it, and is going to allow David Ellefson to go back on stage. Whether or not that will happen in 5 years is up to time itself. But I'm sorry, but it was stupid for what David Ellefson did, but it's, I think, way less stupid than I think other fucking band members have done over their years. Way less. I think it's at this point, it's like hurting a little tiny housefly. You're not going to completely cry that you killed something. It's just, well, it's just a housefly. But compare it to, let's say to your neighbor. Let's say, in some most scenarios with a lot of band members, let's say you see that person already in just across from you on your window. You see them pull out their 12-gauge shotgun and just shoot a dog on the street. That right there, compared to, in the case of David Ellefson, he's just the person in this house right here that probably somehow kills a housefly, and someone will be like, oh, why did you do that? It was bugging me. But nobody's going to give a shit after whatever, you know. But let's say compared to the other person who, let's say, just shoots a fucking dog, yeah, that's going to start a lot of issues. And I think there's a lot of band members these days, I think, that have a lot of big past issues that I think are far worse than what David Ellefson did. I don't want to name names, but right now we got one person that just seems to don't want to shut the hell up, that I think has far more worse things in their past and than what David Ellefson has just did, you know, last year. But yet, is anybody going to give a shit for some reason? I think people just love to pick and choose what they want to argue about and what they want to complain about. So, let's say the piece of shit that I'm referring to is actually the person, let's say, in this really stupid, bad scenario that probably pulled out and killed a dog. Somehow, people are probably going to keep their mouths shut about it, but at the same time, I guess in some way, shape, or form, people might be crowing about the guy that already killed a little housefly. But again, it's just a little housefly. Nobody's going to give a shit. So, in the case for David Ellefson, is anybody going to give a shit on whether or not he really, about what he really did? It was stupid, but in 5 years, Is anybody still gonna hold on to that as long as they can, especially just completely dear and strong in their heart? No. Nope. But again, right now, Dave Mustaine is just playing damage control crew member. He's going to say what he wants to say, wants people to hear, but at the same time, it's going to get to points where, like, okay, we get it. It's not like that he completely went and, again, pulled out a 12-gauge shotgun and shot a dog. He didn't. Again, it's a little housefly that probably just killed. Stupid. It's the most stupidest shit I've seen. It's going to get to more worth. I think it's really freaking stupid anyways. Well, I think I don't know if I can go on anymore, you know. I can't goes on no more. So that's it. This pretty much, I guess, ends the birthday edition of the Nasty Metal Podcast. This one's a little more longer. Again, almost close to 46 minutes here, 50 minutes. It's pretty long. And I got in what I wanted to say. I think I pretty much stated everything. I did a special Q&A segment. Again, if you want to send in questions for me to answer on these Q&A segments, you know what to do and where to look for it. You can, especially in the little description box, you can find a link to my Gmail account where you can send me, you know, that via NastyMetalProductions@gmail.com. You can either send your question in a comment section. You can do it in, let's say, the community section that I have on YouTube, or you can do it via, if you're friends with me, on either Twitter or, again, NastyMetalProductions at Facebook.com. There are so many different options for you to send me questions. Don't hesitate to use those. Okay? Don't completely. Do it. And I'll get you those questions whenever I do episode number 27 of the Nasty Metal Podcast. So there it is. All right. This ends episode number 26, the special birthday edition of the Nasty Metal Podcast. I hope all of you enjoyed. If you have any questions about all these topics, leave them in the comment section below. This is Heavy Thrasher saying I am out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone. And also, I hope all of you at least enjoyed your 4th of July and everything. A lot of fireworks down over here, almost from every single corner. And it was crazy. Alright, take care, everyone.